A. A for anniversary. What is happening, Boot Junkies? Mike Delgadio here, back with another video on home studio setup for voiceover. Feels good in the booth today. I am happy to be here. I have two microphones in the booth today to compare to see if these are right for you, especially if you're a aspiring voice actor. You're just getting started. You got maybe a couple of $100 in your pocket, and you say, where should I spend this money? How should I set up my home studio? What is my good starter microphone? Maybe my forever microphone, but if I don't have $1,000 to spend on a microphone, where can I spend my hard-earned money? And these are two microphones that get recommended quite a bit because they are seen as a really good value for their price. What do we have in the booth, Mike? Stop vamping and start talking. So we have two microphones in the booth today. The first one is this one, on loan to me from Al. This is the MXL990 Cardioid condenser microphone. Al, thank you for sharing your microphone with me. And over here, just as a point of comparison for the MXL990, we have my Rode NT1. Now, why did I choose these two microphones? Well, a couple of different reasons. The first one is they're recommended quite often for people who say, I'm interested in getting started for voiceover. What should I buy? The MXL990 gets recommended all the time, and the Rode NT1 gets recommended all the time. Both really good quality microphones. As you can hear, these are good quality microphones. The question is the sound going to be something that you like? So let's go back and forth. We'll listen to them, and we'll see how they compare and how they differ, if at all. Let's start with their overall configuration. These are cardioid microphones. If you're new to microphones, the cardioid pattern means that they are sensitive from the front and less sensitive from the back. So if I speak into the other side of this microphone, so let's switch over to the Rode here, and if I switch and I talk into the back of the microphone, you don't hear much. What you're actually hearing is the sound bouncing off this glass and coming into the microphone. It's actually rather insensitive from the back. Interesting. And so these are both cardioid patterns. There are a number of different patterns for microphones, and the cardioid pattern is the most appropriate one generally for voiceover, especially if you're in a voice booth. There are different styles of cardioids that get progressively narrower in their sensitivity, so that area of insensitivity gets wider and wider. But the cardioid, supercardioid, and hypercardioid patterns are all good for a voiceover. So if you're looking for that for a microphone, if you're looking for your first voiceover microphone, that's the pattern to get. You don't need figure eight, you don't need omnidirectional, the cardioid. Once it's a cardioid in them. Okay, so these are both cardioid microphones. They're sensitive from the front. They are both large diaphragm. So there's a circle inside this thing called a basket. There's a circle, and that circle vibrates, and it converts the acoustic energy into electrical energy, and it goes in. These are large diaphragm condensers. That little capsule in there is about an inch. I think they're both 1-inch diaphragms. So those, I'm just going to get my specifications here up on my screen. So they are both large diaphragm condensers. They both, by being condenser microphones, that means they both require phantom power. So on your interface, there's a little switch that says, or maybe it's a button, and it might say phantom power. It might have like a P symbol. It might say plus 48. That's commonly what we see is plus 48V. It means that there's 48 volts of electricity that are required to power these microphones so that they can be sensitive enough to pick up your voice. Phantom power. They have no buttons. They have no switches. You just plug them in using an XLR cable, and you plug them in over to your interface. Your interface is a piece of equipment that's required. These can't go like into the headphone jack on your computer. You need a separate piece of equipment called an interface. Could be a mixer, could be an interface, and the good one, a real entry level one, running about $75 to $125. Little extra equipment that you need. You need a cable, you need an interface to connect to your computer. These are both side address microphones, you see that I'm talking into the side of them, not into the end, as some people want to. Sometimes you'll see people and they'll want to put these microphones like this and talk into the top like they see on radio. A radio broadcast microphone, the end address microphones are typically different. Most condenser microphones are side address. You actually talk into the side. And if you look at the capsule that's in there, you want to be facing that gold capsule. Okay, so there's some similarities between them. There are some differences between them. First is the price. The MXL is far less expensive. It's $99. This one came to me as part of a set. The set is right here. Sorry, the set is right here. It also comes with, this particular set also comes with a microphone for recording instruments called a 991. And so this setup, the MXL setup, is really good. So if you're let's say you're a singer-songwriter type, or you go and busk at the cafe and you need a mic for your voice and you need a mic for your instrument, a kit like this, I think, is $125 for the kit. That could be just what you're looking for. So the Rode NT1A is about $230. So pretty significant price difference between the two. Why is there a significant price difference between the two? Well, it's got, generally it's to do with the internals, the engineering that goes into it. In these microphones most specifically, where the difference is in the underlying noise that's present in the microphone. Just by applying power to the microphone, there's usually inherent noise. It's called the noise floor of the microphone. And the lower that noise floor is, the better it's going to be, because there's less underlying hiss. So let's take a listen. First, we'll listen to the NT1A. There's virtually no noise. It's an extremely quiet microphone. So when there's no noise, when there's no signal, my voice, going into the microphone, it's very, very quiet. I think the specification is, 5 dB. It's really, really quiet. Now, on the other hand, less expensive componentry goes into the MXL990 so they can bring the cost down. And this microphone has a much higher noise floor. Let's listen to this one. Should be able to hear it. This one, it's about 20 dBA. So this one has a higher inherent noise. Now, if you're going to be using this to use in music, that might not be a big deal at all. It's really not that loud. If you're going to be, not that loud for the price. $1,000 microphone, I wouldn't want to hear that. $300 microphone, I wouldn't want to hear that, like with the NT1A. But if you're going to be using this in a less than ideal environment, that might be quieter than the noise that's just out there. Like if I open the booth, there's noise that can come in from the street, there's traffic, there's the furnace, there's just the general ambiance of the room that may actually be louder than the noise floor of this microphone. So I tend to give the under $100 or the $100 and less microphones, I tend to give them a little bit of a pass on the noise, because that's how they get the cost down. It's just what they do, especially in things like USB-based microphones. They often have a very high noise floor because they got to jam everything into the price. So the cheap ones like the Blue Yeti, noise floors are really, really high. So the MXL, you should hear it, has a higher noise floor. Now, when I'm speaking into it in my nice, loud voiceover voice, the noise really isn't detectable when I'm talking. It's only during the quiet parts that you hear that noise. So the noise floor, how loud these mics are inherently, that's one thing to pay attention to. The frequency response is another thing to pay attention to. Humans can hear from about 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That's the range. So for young people anyway, start to get old like me, that high end tends to diminish a little tiny bit. But for the most part, 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. You want the microphone. Some microphones, you should expect that they should be able to reproduce everything that humans can hear, 20 to 20,000. Sometimes you can adjust that microphone so that it hears less for specific purposes. These are both really close to the full range of human hearings. Full range. The Rode does claim the full range, 20 to 20,000. The MXL says it's good for from 30 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So a little tiny, tiny bit of bass is rolled off. But that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. Don't worry about the 30 versus 20, because for voice, there's not a lot of our voice that's down below 60 hertz. That's usable. Many times in engineering, in the recording, you'll end up taking everything below 80 hertz away, below 100 hertz away anyway. So don't get really super hung up. If you're going to use this for critical recording of like a piano or something like that, maybe the 20 versus 30, you might lose a tiny bit of information. But don't get too hung up on that in this price point. You got to really know exactly why you want the full range or less than if you're doing some critical recording. But for us, for recording for our YouTube channels, both of these are going to be just fine. What else do we need to say? The last thing is the durability and the quality. Both of these microphones, high quality. These are both going to last you. They shouldn't break right away. I will say that the MXL, surprisingly, weighs almost twice as much. And I think it's the case, the actual case of the thing, the actual thing. It is substantially heavy. It's heavier. It feels like a very solid, durable microphone. The Rode is lighter microphone. That doesn't always mean anything, but I tend to have this notion that the heavier mics feel higher quality, like they're going to last. The MXL is surprisingly robust feeling. The last thing I'll mention for both of these microphones is one reason that both of these are a good choice is they can turn into your forever mic. Even if this is a little too loud, or if you don't like the EQ curve of the NT1A, for me, the NT1A always sounds a little weird for my voice, and the MXL, for me, has a little too much of too high a noise floor. These microphones are also modifiable. There are people out there who are microphone experts that for a few $100s will take this microphone and replace some of the guts inside of it with significantly higher componentry so that you can turn these into microphones that rival the real big boys for a lot less money. So you can start with this, get your use out of it, save up some money, and then go and have this one modified. Or, of course, replace it with something different. But you can modify these. Both of these microphones are known as being modifiable microphones. Michael Jolie is one, Octavamod, who modifies microphones. In fact, I think I'm going to send mine, my NT1A, because I'm really interested in seeing how that sounds. So I might send this one over to Michael and see if he can modify it for me. I don't have a 990, otherwise I would. And I think there are some people out there that may sell kits that you can do this yourself. They'll source the right parts for you and so forth. So you can. I don't want to go too far into the mic mod thing, but these can be modified, which is pretty cool. I hope going back and forth now for almost 20 minutes, hopefully that is a good sort of sense of the difference between these. I will say that for the price, this MXL990, aside from that higher noise floor, man, I love the high-end response on this microphone. I find that the high-end response is a little bit more flattering for me than the NT1A, and that's why I'm going to maybe have this one modified. But I do find that this is a really smooth microphone. If they could just hit that noise floor just a little bit lower, man, this thing would be a giant killer. Just a giant killer. Anyway, the MXL990 and the Rode NT1A. Al, thank you so much for sharing this 990 with me. Man, what a great experience. I've really had fun messing around with it. Thanks so much. You'll have it back soon. So I hope that helps. That's all I have for you today. So if you're a new voice actor, go get yourself a microphone. Maybe one of these, maybe one other one that you can afford, but get yourself a microphone. Don't be afraid. Get out there, get in a booth, and just give it your best. Go record something amazing. Thanks. We'll talk to you next time.